Karinda Jagmohan joins us now live from Durban. Karinda, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. Mass democratic formations joined together in that press briefing. What we do know that is former President Jacob Zuma is also, I think, chairperson of one of those formations, which is Sanco. Did they have anything to say about his announcement?
Indeed, that was one of the questions, one of the first questions posed at this media briefing, is that what is Sanco's view on the matter? The South African National Civics Organization and the one of the representatives here, Nomagugu Simelane, the ANC KZN deputy chairperson, saying, well, that is for Sanco to decide. They will have their own press briefing where they will explain what their view is according to their own guidelines. So no actual Sanco person coming to the fore here to say what is going to happen there, because Sanco is an alliance partner of the ANC, and like you rightly mentioned, the former president is the chairperson of its KwaZulu-Natal branch, having been elected earlier this year. Then the party, or that executive leadership, was disbanded, and very recently he was again elected as the KZN chairperson. But Sanco was seated here as an alliance partner and part of the mass democratic movement, where the ANC KZN provincial secretary uMkhonto telling the panel of journalists that this was in fact gross ill discipline, the move by the former president to publicly support another political party. He said it's the first time in the history of the ANC that a former leader has publicly announced this decision, and they do say that they are quite disappointed with this. There was a question posed to the panel here about whether or not they call for the expulsion of the former president. uMkhonto again not giving a direct answer, instead giving a sort of an anecdote about how ultimately they know that the former president is supporting another person, but another political party, but he won't be happy there. He has, of course, been with the ANC for over 64 years of his life, and it will be quite difficult for him to start a new political venture. And then going on to say that they are actually receiving more ANC members and they are gaining more support. This was, of course, after a question as well about concern of whether or not the ANC is worried that they might lose their electoral support in the run-up to the 2024 election, because of course, we know that Zuma has a strong support base here in KwaZulu-Natal. This is his home province, and of course, the concern is that this move will now take those voters, that support base, to the newly registered uMkhonto weSizwe. There was, of course, a debate about the party itself, with the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal stating categorically that this is not a wing of the ANC. It's a newly registered party that is created to look like the ANC's uMkhonto weSizwe. Of course, we just heard that bite as well, to ultimately woo ANC members to vote for them. They say that they do not regret the support they've had for the former president. One of the leaders here going on to say that in the past years they often go to elders to seek guidance with regards to any matters, and indeed the former president Jacob Zuma was one of those who they sought guidance from, and they say they do not regret that. They believe that his remarks about the ANC being a collaborator of apartheid was perhaps a slip of the tongue. They believe he might have spoken in anger, and they did say that many former leaders of the party have been criticized over the past years by members of the party themselves, and they say that this is ultimately a move towards the 2024 election, and they say that they will continue garnering support, alluding to some of the by-elections in KwaZulu-Natal that the ANC has won, and they took over a recent ward as well from another opposition party. So certainly it seems that after a very lengthy meeting, which only ended just before 3 p.m., there seems to be some sort of agreement that there must be a way forward, and that is putting their weight behind current President Cyril Ramaphosa. He will apparently be here in KwaZulu-Natal in February, when the party will launch its manifesto for the upcoming election, and seemingly they say they will move on from this, but they do not regret their support for the former president, and it doesn't seem at this point that they're calling for an expulsion of Zuma from the party.
Karinda, maybe a quick one just for clarity. So he says, in that analogy, if your wife then therefore goes on to be with another partner, she has divorced you. So are they considering President Zuma still a member of the ANC or outside of the ANC?
They do at this stage feel that the former president is outside of the ANC. That is certainly the analogy that Mr. Mtholo gave when asked about whether or not he wants to see Zuma expelled, and that's what he ultimately said, is that Zuma has already announced that he has divorced from this party. And for certainly the panel here, it seems that they feel he is now an outsider, because for them it was a description of being gross ill discipline, which is ultimately against the ruling party itself, the ANC. So at this point we know as well that there will be legal action taken against uMkhonto weSizwe, the newly registered party, and what we also find is that there is a sense of deflation, because ultimately, especially the panel that was here, had great support for the former president over the past few years, when he was certainly embattled by a number of charges, criminal charges as well. They say they don't regret that, but of course despondent because of the way forward now. They are instead putting all their focus, all their might behind Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, saying that, or rather alluding to the work he's done just in terms of the international work, in terms of the fight for Palestine, the conversations he's had with world leaders over the past few months, President Macron, among a few that was named here today. So certainly, while it seems like they are quite heartbroken about what has happened, they're really looking at having Ramaphosa here next year to find a way forward for the ANC in the upcoming election.
Karinda Jagmohan, thank you this afternoon. That's Karinda there.